Good morning, everybody. Appreciate the Electric Culture of Safety partners zooming in and checking out the new episode here with Mr. Mark Todd. He's a certified utility safety professional, and he's a senior safety and training specialist with Electric Cities of North Carolina here today. And you're in for a treat. He's been in line work for a long time, and he's here to share his heart and his episode 048 Tips for the New Lineman. And I think this is going to be real exciting. We had dinner last night for some time, had a little bit of steak and one glass of wine? Just one?
Just one.
One glass
just
of wine.
One.
Okay.
Just one.
And it's great talking and just jawing with one another and learning about each other and our experiences and our situations out there in the field and our live wire stories. Just kind of comparing. It's a lot of fun. And Mark, met you 4 or 5 years ago with Electric Cities of North Carolina doing a tour?
We did a tour, and then we met at IP in Frisco, Texas.
Yeah, that's right.
That was 2019 or 18 sometime.
That's right, at the IP Safety Conference. So we did a tour with the Electric Cities of North Carolina around and went to several municipalities for a few weeks, I believe, for a few weeks, and just giving some training. And a lot of great folks. In fact, Electric Cities of North Carolina, they were one of the very first endorsers with their logo. I don't even know where it's at. With, where are you guys at? Right here.
There you go.
Right here. They were one of the very first endorsers of ECOS with their logo about 2 years ago. About 2 years ago, they were one of the very first. So Mark, give us some Mark history. Give us some history of the legend.
I wouldn't call it a legend. You'd have to go back to the generation before me, to talk about the legend. My father was a lineman with a co-op in North Carolina, and I tell folks, I said I started my career. My best friend, his dad, was my dad's crew leader. And so back then, before cell phones, pagers, and all this, you just had to sit by the phone when you were on call. So when he was on call, if he drove a big truck home, my friend would come over and Dad would tell us, don't touch the key, don't touch the mic, and he'd give us a couple of rubber glove protectors. And so we'd dig us a hard head out of the truck, and we were probably 6, 7 years old. And we set poles all day on that truck, imagining. So I tell folks I set my first pole when I was about 7 years old. And but my dad was a lineman. He started in 1954 with Sumter, and he and his brother, and my dad stuck with it. And my grandfather was a lineman for Rural Electric in the 40s. And so it kind of goes way back. I guess it was just meant to be, that I fell into this role. But it has been it's been a rewarding career, very very rewarding.
Yeah. So with the Electric Cities of North Carolina, tell the folks a little bit about where you come and play. What are your roles there?
Electric Cities of North Carolina, we support public power in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia, and so we. As far as the membership, we have different departments that support the municipalities in different areas. And our department, safety and training, you may have one member that has a staff that can provide certain things, but then you've got smaller municipalities that aren't able, because of the manpower. And that's where we come in and we provide, as far as the safety and training, we conduct safety schools in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, Maiden, North Carolina, and Newberry, South Carolina. We have training facilities, and we put on week-long schools training linemen, and we also support the municipalities by conducting safety meetings in-house. with our members, and we also conduct crew audits where we go out and actually visit the crews on the job site.
Nice.
To do crew audits, and I tell folks, I said, we're not here as a cop to catch you doing something wrong. We're here as a doctor. Carl Potter said that. I learned it from him years ago. Catching opportunities for finding opportunities for coaching, as far as a doctor, documenting opportunities for coaching. So we do those crew audits and point out things, that maybe they need to start doing, or what they're doing well. We always make sure we document what they're doing well, because you can't just come in and pick out the wrong.
That's right.
You got to highlight the positive too.
Yeah, very good. Just so everybody knows, you can email me at brent@bieremeters.com and get a ECOS hat, Bierer Meters ECOS hat. I'll send them to you for no cost, and we'll pay for the shipping as well. And we also have some hard hat stickers with ECOS. Spread what we're doing around for 2.5 years now. We're going strong. We have just about almost 13,000 partners now that are registered, and they receive twice a month these monthly Lineman Safety National webinars. And we appreciate Electric Cities of North Carolina just partnering up with us, and we're creating a line team. And Mark, I'm just proud to say that you're part of this. And this is your second time.
Yes.
And Mark does a wonderful job, and what he's about to share with you guys, it's basically a timeless, relevant subject, relevant topic, and it's really neat how Mark, he's getting closer and closer to retirement, and he wants to share to the next generation. He wants to share to the new linemen what's in him. And you'll see that. You'll feel it. You'll see it. And just really glad you're here, everybody. And Mark, thank you, brother. Appreciate you're here.
Thank you for having me, Brent.
You bet.
Well, again, I want to thank for Brent and Bierer Meter for having us down today, and for the opportunity to share with you. I was at the IP a few weeks ago, and Brent and I were having a conversation, and I had reached the point to where I didn't think I was going to be able to come down today, and but I was reminded, I heard someone speak one time, and he said, if you work for someone, you work for him all the way. And I had made a commitment to be here, and listening to Brent present at the IP in Orlando, sitting in the presentation, I sat there, and this was like, what, 2 weeks ago, this topic came to me, and I thought, well, I tell these stories all the time. And so if you are an individual that has ever sat in one of my classes, attended one of my classes, or heard me speak in the past, you've probably heard some of this. And the topic is tips for new linemen, but that doesn't necessarily mean there's not something in here for everyone else. There's going to be other things that I address, but the main meat of it is, things that will help you starting out your career as a new lineman, things that have helped me, things that I have learned over the years that maybe I should have done when I started out. So we're going to cover this, just show this disclaimer right quick here. Electric Cities, I work for Electric Cities of North Carolina, and Mike Bird was the manager that hired me in 2012. And it is, but I remember, in that interview, and then going back, when I interviewed the first time, when I started the first company I worked for. And so I want to start out with talking about the attitude that I had when I interviewed. The attitude, I call it the job interview attitude. Does it change, or does it remain the same? When you interviewed for your job, if the person interviewing you, and you're coming to work and you're going to be a lineman and start your training, and the person that interviewed you, the supervisor, tells you, now Monday morning, your job, the first thing you do when you come in here every Monday morning is take the garbage can to the road. And in your interview, if he asked you, are you willing to do that? Absolutely, you would say that. Why? Because you needed a job. And you were willing to do, hey, whatever you need me to do, I'm here to do it. But what if 6 months later, and we've hired some new hires after you started, suppose you're still taking that can to the road every Monday morning? Should your attitude change about taking that can to the road, or should you, or are you going to step up and say, hey, you know, I don't carry that can to the road for the past 6 months? No, you were asked to do it, or whatever the job may be that you were asked to do. You were asked to do it because it was something that needed to be done, and that should be the focus. It's something that needs to be done, and you're getting paid to do what needs to be done. So make sure you evaluate, step back, see where you are, and has my attitude changed? And do I need to step back and regroup? Do I need to back up 10 and punt? Okay, make sure you keep that attitude right. And I promise you, if you'll take that can to the road and not say anything, or do whatever that job is out of the ordinary that they've asked you to do, it won't last long. More than likely, what they're trying to do is, are you willing to step up and do the things that need to be done? When the job gets difficult, you know, make sure you keep that attitude. And remember I said, okay, I just said it was a job. You needed a job, but it's up to you to make that job a career, okay? Don't allow the attitude of others to poorly influence your attitude, okay? Somebody that they may, you know, be working with you, but you know, we call it that bay door talk. Okay, I've always said, if you want to know what linemen are thinking during a meeting or something that you talked about, go out to the bay door after the meeting. You'll find out exactly how they feel about it. But don't go out there to that bay door and be influenced by bad or poor attitudes from other coworkers. You want to establish goals up front. You don't procrastinate. Procrastination is a dirty word. And I tell folks, what are you talking about, dirty word? Procrastination. When you get to a point in your career, after you add a few years, that job's not going to be as easy. Okay, you may do line work your whole career, but after you add a few years, some of those tasks might get a little more difficult. So what you want to do, you want to take every class that's offered. You want to take every opportunity, all the training that's offered. Take that. Prepare yourself for the promotion or any offers that come down the road that where you may be able to move into another position. At least when you get to that point, there's things, you know, that now you're prepared to do that. And that comes not just with your work, but there's things, you want to set those goals and do those things and not procrastinate, simply because there's a day's going to come, there's going to be certain things that you may still want to do, but now you no longer are physically able to do them. And so don't put it off. If you have a passion, if you have a goal to want to do something, set that goal. And you can't just set one big goal and say, I'm going to work really hard to get to my goal. But you got to set smaller goals that's going to help you reach that larger goal down the road. Now the safety manual, I want to talk about the safety manual for a few minutes. The day you start, if a safety manual is not given to you, ask for one. It may be that they just forgot the day you come in. I'm not talking about the interview. This is the day you start and you come to work. Make sure before the end of that day, if a safety manual hasn't been given to you, make sure you ask for one. Okay, they may have just overlooked that, and we'll get that to you. But ask for a safety manual. You're making a statement that you're an employee that's coming on from day one with the intentions of following the rules and being safe, okay? Read that safety manual. It is your responsibility to read it and study it and learn it, and follow the safety rules in there. Now, on each safety manual, and you will probably be required, or you should be, there's a safety manual receipt in the front of every safety manual. And you sign that, but have you ever read what it says? Usually it'll go down here that it's your responsibility to read that safety manual and follow the rules and policies that apply to the task that you do. But down here it may say, now if you don't follow these rules, disciplinary actions may be taken. Okay, and I know that the safety manual that I'm referring to, and that's pretty much it, and you sign it. And that says that you've been issued a safety manual. And every employee should have his or her safety manual. It's not one that's in the warehouse or in the break room. It's every employee should have one. And you sign that saying that you're going to do this. But what's the real reason we follow the rules in the safety manual? The rules are not because it's a rule and if I don't follow it, I'm going to get in trouble. Boss man may send me home for a couple of days, put me on probation. But you follow the safety rules to protect and guard those things that are important to you. And so I told this story in my last eCause webinar. I told the story about, as far as the reason you wear safety glasses. So if you're watching today or you're watching later this presentation, you may be in a large group of people. And I'm talking about those of you that are watching live that are back there on the back row. I want you to do it too. I want you to, everybody in the room should do it. So close your eyes right now and think of that one person that's so special, the spouse, the children, the parents. I want you to think back of the time that they looked you in the eye and you looked them in the eye and they told you they loved you. Do you remember that look? Okay, now you're supposed to have your eyes closed and you're thinking about that look that was on their face, looking in their eyes. William Shakespeare said the eyes are the windows to the soul. And so you're looking this person in the eye and they tell you they love you. Well, with your eyes closed, see that look. What if that's all you had, was the memory of that look? Suppose something happened today, a flash happened, you weren't wearing safety glasses, something happened, you lost your eyesight. And when you go home, if you're able to go home, you'll never be able to look that person in the eye again because you didn't follow the safety rules and wear eye protection. That's why we follow those rules, not because of disciplinary actions, but to protect our eyes, to protect what we see with our eyes, those blessings that we have. And the hearing protection, what if you never heard the words spoken again, I love you? Or what if I don't know a lineman out there that doesn't deer hunt, okay? What if you're sitting in that deer stand on Saturday morning, sun's just coming up, leaves are crisp, okay? And that deer walks through those leaves and you hear that. I've never done that. I'm not a deer hunter, but I've worked with many over the years. And they talk about how, oh man, it's nice. Well, what if you never heard that sound again? That's why you wear hearing protection. It's to protect those things. Every rule in that book is to protect those things that we value. That's why you follow the safety rules and take that approach from day one, okay? And I promise you, it'll be rewarding, you'll be safe, and you'll keep those blessings protected. Find the one thing. When I started, I worked for a couple of contractors, for a few years. And then when I started with an investor-owned company, I had some folks in my career that were really, two individuals I'll mention, Keith Anderson and Carlton Henson. And Keith told me, Carlton said, find that one thing. He said, because when you, let's say if it's the system, knowing the system, what air brake switch, what feeders does this air brake switch separate? What substation does it feed out of? Learn that system, he said, learn the system and find that one thing that's passion. Well, what if when my phone rings, I've been here a year and a half, let's say, and somebody calls me and he says, Mark, over off of South George Street, that air brake switch, which one? We're over here working, we've got a back, what does that feed? And the first time you're asked that question, it just stimulates to be better and to learn something else. But find that one thing that you're passionate about. And up front, it was troubleshooting. It always intrigued me. If the lights are flickering, there's something causing it. it was like a puzzle. I wanted to go out and find what it was. And serviceman goes out, the lights are flickering, he goes out and checks voltage. That's about all he does. The boss man calls, he said, ain't nothing wrong right here. He puts the meter back in, goes on to the next job. That night the on-call guy gets a call and he goes out and he don't find nothing. He checks voltage and so the next day this person calls back in and the boss, he said, Todd, go out there, here's the address. Go out there and find out what's going on. And now that says he's got confidence in me. Okay, but if the lights are flickering, or there's something wrong. There's something causing it. And we don't provide flickering lights to our customers. We provide quality power. Okay, so let's go find out what it was. That intrigued me, that troubleshooting. And it may be transformer connections, grounding, the system. Keith, he taught me, he said, Mark, learn the system. He said, it's very important. He said, you need to know the system. You need to know it not by following that GPS. You need to learn the system, not learning the town and your way around. That's important too, but knowing the system, where the substations are located, what feeders feed out of those substations, where those substations are tied with another substation or another feeder in the field. Learn that. And I didn't realize, the importance of it. But then it kind of came on. And we're talking about underground and overhead. Know the system, and just because you know the system, don't rely on maps or apps on the laptop, on your work laptop, when you have to go into an underground. If the normal opening point, if the app says the normal opening point is here, it's at pad 4X, okay, well, always verify. You may know that's where it's supposed to be, but always verify. Make sure you know. And I put in here, I was looking over these notes last night, and if you see something in parentheses on the slides, dip pole on a loop feed. Okay, why did I put that down there? Knowing the system. Okay, so let's say this is underground. We had a hurricane come through a couple of weeks ago, and let's say that particular dip pole got damaged. And you got somebody from out of town that comes in that's doing work, and they have to replace this pole. Well, what phase did they put that riser on when they energized that dip? Okay, if the normal opening point in the subdivision is open when they energized it, if it's on a different phase, nothing happens. Nothing happens because the normal opening point's got it separated. But then, 2 or 3 months later, after this is all cleaned up and we're doing a job where we've got to tie that system together. Okay, when you tie that elbow together there in that normal opening point, you just went phase to phase. So always, anytime you got that situation, always put your eyes on both of those dips. One may be at the back of the entrance, one may be at the front, or both may be at the same location. But make sure that both of those dips are on the same phase, and that way you eliminate those things. It's always put your eyes on it and verify. Learning the system. Keith, when he told me, he said, Mark, learn the system. I didn't realize, but how important it would be. And by learning the system, okay, you'll be ready for your Flight 1549 moment. Now, how many can remember where Flight 1549, where did it leave from, where did it land? If you'll remember, Flight 1549 was landed on the Hudson. That was Sully. Okay, Captain Sully Sullenberger and Jeff Skiles was the pilots, and then their flight crew, 3 flight crew, 95 years of experience on that plane, 155 people on board. All 155 people were rescued. And some of the passengers said when they landed, they didn't even know they were on the water until they looked out that they were on the ground, because it was such a smooth landing. But if you'll remember, after that event and during the interviews, they interviewed Captain Sullenberger. He said the air traffic controllers was telling him, you need to turn this way and make your approach to this. But all of his training kicked in, and he knew he couldn't make that. He couldn't make where they were telling him to go. He saw the Hudson, and he knew that's our only option. That's where we've got to go, and that's where he landed the plane. All of his training, and so I tell folks, You're going to have your moment if you stay in line work. My Flight 1549 moment happened downtown Goldsboro. There was a print shop that was on fire. Now, if you go downtown, small town, the left side of this wall of this business is attached to someone else. The right side is attached to someone else. If you don't put the fire out, downtown's going to burn up. But my training kicked back in. Why? Because Keith said, learn the system. I knew exactly where I needed to go. There is firefighters from all over. And who's in charge at this point right now? I am. I got to kill the power to this building. But I knew exactly where to go on George Street to open that air brake switch. And I had the feeder, I had the dispatchers drop this, open this, I closed this, okay? In about 15 minutes, I came back, you're good to go. But what if I didn't know the system? What if I had to call somebody? Where do I need to go? What do I have to do? Don't rely on being able to call, and you should when in doubt. But be ready when that time happens so that you're able to react and take charge of it. And that's where I was ready because I learned the system. I've trained myself. Learn from your mistakes, learn from others, and share near misses. A near miss, really important that they're shared, but a lot of times when we share a near miss, nobody got hurt, no property was damaged, and sometimes it might be funny. But if a laugh is, if you're telling it for it to be funny, a laugh is all you're going to get out of it. You need to learn what could have happened. What could have happened? And learning from your mistakes, you know, is good to, you know, hey, every time you do a job, you know, we have to do a job briefing. But if you thought about doing a post-job briefing, what can we do better next time that we won't make this same mistake again? But when you learn something, if you will teach it to someone else, you will retain 90% of what you learn. And when you teach it to someone else, this helps you because it's going to help you retain it. It helps the coworker that you taught. It helps the company. And now you as an employee are valued. Your value of an employee, it goes up. Why? You know, and because you're teaching, okay? And it also, it helps your safety. It protects you. It keeps you safe, okay? Because now people are learning. Everybody's learning, and you're sharing that. So the average retention rate, if you lecture, 5%. If you sit in a lecture, you're going to retain about 5%, 10% from reading something, 20% audio. So if you like to, you know, like myself, you know, I'll listen to different people, you know, while I'm driving, and then I may come back and listen to it 2 or 3 times more, okay? Because I'm only going to retain 20%, but if I listen to it over and over, then I get something, okay? Demonstrations, you know, hands-on, showing somebody how to do something, 30%, 50% in group discussions. Now, let's talk about that group discussion. 50% is all we're going to retain. But when you have your job briefings, are we being lectured to by the person in charge saying, okay, here's where we're at. We're going to change this pole right here. Everybody, you know, the slips, trips, and falls, and blah, blah, blah. And we're on this circuit here. Everybody sign. And because we're changing a pole out, and we change poles out every day. And so, but what are the hazards? Have we identified them? And that job briefing documents that we conducted one, that the crew leader conducted it. But what documents that we were documented, that we were informed, that we were briefed about what we were doing, okay? And if you will talk about it together, everybody can be on the same page. 90% teaching others. And I remember when transformer connection was always my weakness. I could not get it. And I'm so intrigued with it now. I love teaching the class. Why? Because I finally got it. And I remember when I got a coworker, Jeff Freeman, and I we were teaching a transformer school down in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And this was back during COVID. And so Jeff is teaching, And I'm in the back, and one of the engineers there, and I leaned over and I asked him, I said, it's the vectors. You know, I can read it, I can build it from the vector. I said, but I can draw it, but it always confuses me where to start. And he said, you always start at 8 o'clock on the vector, you know, on the primary side. He said, you always start at 8. I said, whoa, Jeff. I said, hold up. I said, you know, hey, and I had to tell it right then because I didn't want to forget it. Okay, when you learn something, teach it to somebody else, and you will retain it. Okay, and then encourage them. Once they got it, have them teach somebody else. Be patient. You know, I told you about setting goals. Be patient while working to meet your goals. Now, I realized many years ago that I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to instruct line workers. I knew, I said, man, I really, just sitting in class and the instructor up there teaching us, that's what I want to do. But knowing what you want to do doesn't necessarily make you prepared to do it. I was not prepared to do it. I still had a lot of learning to do and a lot of experiencing to go through. But now, years later, it comes, you know, if I'd have done it then, I'd have had the book. I'd have had something step by step. Now, I don't need the book. You know, it's just, what do you want to talk about? But you got to prepare yourself for what you want to do, that goal that you set. When you realize this is what I want to do, you have to prepare yourself. Can't go out and start tomorrow, okay? You got to prepare yourself. Question opportunities that may not support your passion or your goals. Don't get sidetracked. Evaluate where the decision will send you. So if this is where your passion is, this is where my passion is, do I need to be sitting behind a desk in an office every day? There's days that I have to be there and I have, you know, things I've got to do. But right here, this is the passion. Teaching the linemen, making a difference with the men and women that are keeping the lights on and making sure that they're safe. That's my passion. And so if you get directed over here, okay, you can lose sight of that passion. And then down the road, you know, I wish I could, I'd love to get back over there and get in the bucket and work a pole out. No. Okay, maybe on a beautiful morning like this right here, it might be nice. But on a cold or a real hot day, I'm happy where I'm at. Okay, so, but don't lose your focus on your passion. Don't lose that. Stay focused on what you want to do. Now, the decision that changes your direction may not be yours. It may not be mine, may not be yours. What do you do when your direction is changed by someone other than you? Mark, I know this is what you are. You're on the overhead crew, but we need you to work service. And you're probably going to be on that truck for about a year. Or we need you to go over and work underground. A lot of folks have overhead and underground. We need you to go over here. Remember back our interview attitude? That's where the company needs me. That's where they need me, and they need to know that I'm willing to step up and do what's needed. But learn from those opportunities given to you. Apply the skills that you learn. It's not just about you. It's about supporting the employer and the company and the needs of the company. Okay? Be that person that steps up. Your direction may change, but your destination doesn't have to. Remember, keep your goals, your passion, keep that your focus, but learn from every opportunity that's given to you. Be concerned and attentive to the well-being of those around you. And I go back to a crew leader that I had years ago. And we would come in, and people have heard me tell this story so many times, when everything on the job site was discussed. And he'd always ask, is everybody fit for duty? And that doesn't mean that maybe a Super Bowl weekend, Super Bowl was last night, or we went into extra innings in the baseball game. We had to sit up and watch it, okay? And we had maybe one too many. But now we're at work on Monday morning, and that's not what that means. What that means is if you've got something going on, maybe the kids didn't get up and get dressed for school. Oh, you're just trying to, get them up and going, and then you and the wife have an argument. Oh, you wait till you get home. We'll settle this when you get home. Now, do you want to be working in the bucket across from that guy today? Because where's his focus? Man, she's mad. I hate going home today. That's where his focus is all day. Does he need to be in the bucket today? And working together. It could be anything that distracts you, okay? You pay the IRS, and next thing you know, you get a letter in the mail. You still owe us $50 more. Really? Okay, I opened that this morning before I went to work. I shouldn't have done that, okay? But I'm upset over that, and I'm distracted. I'm not focused on what I'm doing. Working, and remember the eyes, windows to the soul. You work with your crew every day. You need to know if things aren't looking right. Brent, everything okay? You okay? I mean, how about you working the ground this morning? And I worked the bucket. I worked the bucket this morning. You worked the ground this morning. So being able to recognize that. Is everyone fit for duty? Home comes to work with you every day. People tell you to leave it at home, but you can't. You have responsibilities that are there, okay? And so be attentive to your coworkers, their families, because their families are relying on them to come home, okay? And the customer, okay? You got to keep the customer. What are y'all doing in my yard? Is he safe in that work zone? Okay? Be attentive to everyone around you. Be the professional you were hired to be. A lot of times you'll hear folks talk about, well, how come linemen aren't first responders? How does the public treat you is based on how you conduct yourself. You are a professional. That's what you were hired to be in order to go out to learn the system, to learn how to troubleshoot, to learn, each one of you at the point of journeyman and with years down, under your belt are extremely highly trained professionals. But we don't conduct ourselves a lot of times that way. And what does the public see? So I thought about this when Brent and I were sitting here, and I had this slide pulled up, and I thought about this, one thing. Okay, let's say that job site is set up in front of the elementary school. Mom and dads are lined up to pick up their children that afternoon. We changing a pole out, okay? And the guy in the bucket comes down. He needs two 12-inch bolts. And you reach over and you grab him two 12-inch bolts and you hand it to him. And you're the new guy on the crew. One thing that you better make sure you check, he goes back up, but these are new bolts. And what a lot of times what we get on the end of a new bolt, that galvanizes extra build up, and that nut won't go on there. It's probably going to come back down at you. But he may send a few extra boards down with that bolt. Okay? And look who's looking at us out here. We've got to conduct ourselves as professionals. Okay? And that's what that's the way the public will treat you if you conduct yourself that way. You're representing your company, but mainly you're representing yourself. If you want to be treated as a professional, conduct yourself as one. Respect the customer's property. When you're on their property, okay, respect the customer's property. Something else I thought about, if you go on the underground and you go out here and you got to dig, take a picture. Everybody's got their phone. Take a picture of the yard before and after. Because if Miss Jones been trying to get grass to grow on this bank for 10 years, okay, and you leave it and she comes in and complains, well, they come in here and tore my yard up. Here's what it looked like before. Here's what it looked like after, okay? If not, we're going to be planting grass on Miss Jones's yard, aren't we? And we didn't tear anything up. Okay, but we need to respect the customer's property. How you conduct yourself, don't be the class clown. I throw this in here. If you start, a lot of times, class clown, bully, whatever, it's to cover up an insecurity. It's to redirect the focus at something else, to make a funny or whatever. But if you always conduct yourself in that manner, when it comes time for a promotion and there's two people that's in line for it, if you conduct yourself as the class clown, that's exactly where you'll remain. You'll always be the class clown. Oh, he gets out there and he works. But as far as professionalism, okay, conduct yourself as a professional. Start every day with a purpose. It's not just about making 8, okay? What's the task for the day and what can I learn doing it? Every job you do, you should be able to say that we learned something or either we taught somebody something. Somebody needs to learn something on every job. It's not just about completing that work order. It's about training our people. Because one day that crew leader that becomes, the supervisor, he's going to retire. Somebody's got to replace him, okay? And if all of our seasoned people start leaving and we have it trained, who's going to keep the lights on? And what if you live on that system? Now you're retired. Oh man, I sure hope I trained him properly. Okay, who's going to get my lights on? We got to train the next generation. We got to train you guys, okay? So learn everything you can. Take advantage of the people that you work for and work under with their skills. And one person may tell you one thing, how to do this. Another crew leader, you get over to work on his crew, oh, he does it different. He does it completely different. Danny Raines, I heard him say years ago, one thing that all linemen do exactly the same. Everything else is different. The one thing, what is it, Danny? The big end of the pole goes in the hole. Everything else, we all put the big end of the pole in the hole, okay? But we do things different. But what you're teaching, what you're learning, if Joe shows me one way, one day it's going to come up, this is the way we've always done it, and we get down a right of way somewhere, that ain't going to work. We got to come up with another, that ain't going to work there. We got to come up with another plan. Well, Jim showed me how to do it when I was working with him. He showed me this way. Okay, you've got another way of doing something. All it's doing is building that library of knowledge of different ways of doing the job, okay? It's just building. It's not saying one person's right, one person's wrong. It's building that library, okay? Respect others and their opinion. Ask, what do you think about this? The job or whatever it is you're working on, okay? Get input. Everybody brings something to the table, okay? And get the input from everybody on the crew. Conduct the job briefing. Talk about the job together as a team. Every member is important. And when I say every member, every task on the crew has the same amount of importance. If you really think about it, there's more danger on here on the ground. I can control everything that takes place on that pole. I can put my PPE in place. I can cover up properly. And I can put road cones out here, but I can't control that car. It's up to that car to see what I've established as far as a work zone. That's a dangerous place to work on the ground. Okay, so every job is important, but think about this. The more seasoned that are watching, the ones of you that work the bucket, the person that's on the ground, you can't do your job without him. In order for you to do your job in the bucket, you got to have a person on the ground in order to do your job. Yeah, I can get it. No, it takes a team. It takes us all working together, and his job is just as important. If you're working on the ground and you just started, take pride in that as a groundman and what you do. Why? Because he needs you. That person in the bucket needs you. And if you got one in the bucket that wants to yell up and down at everything he wants, and he's constantly dropping trash, do this right here. I guarantee you it'll work. We fixing to be in July. We going into August. We got some hot days coming up, right? Try this. Next time he comes down, hand him a bottle of water. Okay? He'll appreciate it. And that'll maybe that will break that barrier. But respect everybody on the job site, okay? Respect everybody on the job site. Everybody's job is just as important. Show appreciation to those under you and over you at whatever position you may hold. Everybody brings something to the table, but we've got to respect and show that respect to all of us. Even if you don't respect the groundman, if you as a groundman didn't get the respect, or I'm not sure if we even call it that anymore, groundman, Tech 1, whatever it is. Okay, let's say I work down here, and this is where it usually happens. You know, well, I got this right here thrown at me all the time, and I got hollered at, and so when I get in the bucket, it's time for me to pay back. That ain't the way it works. It's not the way it works. We got to break that mentality. Remember, we talked about being and conducting yourselves as professionals. Okay, we got to break that. The attitude of not respecting everyone, that's just got to change. Okay, because of the importance of every job on the job site. Don't take pride. This is a lesson my dad taught me here. Don't take pride in the job you do, but take pride in how well you do it. No matter what it is you do or you choose to do, take pride in it and how well you do that job. Not just because of what it is. I do line work. Yeah, well, how well do you do it? Okay, take pride in how well you do it. The task has been assigned to you, no matter what it is. It's been assigned to you for a reason, and that reason is because it needs to be done. It's something that needs to be done. A small task completed well by you today will lead to larger ones tomorrow. And those tomorrow where you may or soon will be the person in charge. Okay? Do each task, okay? And it will come in time. And then you'll be, but if you get to that point by being that person that stepped up, being that person that was dependable, when you get to that point to where now you're a crew leader, the respect will already be earned, okay? Because the folks that work with you, they know what you've done in yesterday. They know what you did. You've already earned that respect. Something I learned at the IP conference the other week. A good lineman is satisfied with themselves, but a great lineman continues to learn from those around him every day. We learn something in this industry every day, okay? Continue to learn. You may finish your education, but learning never stops, okay? You got to continue to learn. Be a team and put me and I to rest, okay? A lineman that's just here for the hours and the pay, that doesn't need to exist. So we're going to pause right there. And I'm going to read that. A lineman just here for hours and the pay must not exist. Okay? And there's a few in the room. There's a few. Y'all, I want to get paid. I want to get paid. But I'm here for you. I'm here for me. I'm here for my coworkers and everybody around me. Okay? When I'm here, I'm here. Okay? And it's to do the job. I need to be 100% on the job. What can I do to help? Have that mentality, okay? Be the employee that steps up even if it seems that you're always that one. You know, man, yeah, we were going to go over to, but yeah, I'll come in. I'll come in. It can be hard sometimes, but I promise you, if you'll be that person and do it with a positive attitude, it will come back to you. It will pay back to you. Employees' responsibility for safety. Now, this is a rule that I read. It comes right out of the safety manual. When in doubt, ask questions. Ask for assistance when help is needed. Listed in the safety manual. And I'm going to read it per word. Before beginning the job, employees shall satisfy themselves that they can perform the task without injury. If they are in doubt as to their ability to perform the work, they shall call this to the attention of the supervisor, their supervisor, or person in charge. Why? Now that's Safety Rule 102 in the APPA Safety Manual. And I say that's probably one of the hardest rules for a lineman to learn and follow. Why? Because if you don't know how to do something, you got to go to your crew leader or your supervisor and tell them, boss, I don't know how to do this. How hard is that for some of us to do? But if you will be the employee, okay, supervisor sends you out here on a job and you get out there and you got questions. Man, am I supposed to take that lead off or what? And you're not sure. But you want to be able to go out there, complete it, do the task, and get back without having to ask for help, okay? But then something happens, or something you may get it right and go back. But being the employee and proving to your employer that when in doubt, Brent will pick up the phone. Send Brent out there. I know if he gets out there and he's in doubt, I know Brent will call. and he'll ask for help. But Joe, no, you better send Brent. I don't know if Brent can do it, but I know he'll pick up the phone and call. That's the employee. If you'll do that and you'll prove to your employer that you're that employee that will pick up the phone and call, when in doubt, it'll take you further quicker, okay? Because now you're going to be given more tasks. Why? Because they know you'll call for help. Don't get comfortable with the hazard. I go back and somebody that actually told this story the other week, it was on my last presentation. If you go back and remember when you learn how to drive a car, okay, driver's ed teachers over here, where's your hands? 10 and 2, right? Somebody told me it's supposed to be 9 and 3 now, 10 and 2. I'm not really sure. But that's where they were at while you were driving. And so you get your learner's permit. I guess they still do that, you know. You get your learner's permit. You got to drive with that learner's permit for a little while. And so you're driving with mom, and you throw that hand down here. You want to lay back, and what's mom tell you? Get that hand up. Yes, ma'am. Okay, you're driving. Now it comes time, you get the license, and we need a gallon of milk. Joe, run down to the Dollar General and get us a gallon of milk. Okay, so you're going down the road. It's a 2-lane highway. Speed limit's 55, and you pass an 18-wheeler on the road. And as you're approaching, there's only a few feet between you and that 18-wheeler. And you were down here because mom's not sitting next to you. And you had one hand. Well, you throw that other hand up there, and you're driving, and and you got by it. That's the first one. Yeah, that wasn't bad. That wasn't bad. But where was your hands the last time you passed an 18-wheeler or something, or on the interstate, traffic in both lanes next to you, passing big trucks and vehicles on the highway? Where's your hands now? You got one hand up here. Lord knows, don't have that phone up texting, okay? But you're down here finding something on the radio. You take the water bottle and you open and take the cap off so you can get you fix changing the station. But we can do that because years we have driven and we've become good at drive. We've become good drivers. But what happened to the hazard between you and that 18-wheeler? It's still there. The hazard's still there. All we did was get comfortable with the hazard. So don't get comfortable because it's still there. When you get up in the bucket and you go up there and you rubber things up and go in, okay, there's a hazard there. But the better we get with our skills and doing our job, do we get relaxed? Do we get comfortable with the hazard? Don't. It's always there, and it's looking for the opportunity. A hazard is not prejudice of any opportunity to cause an injury. It's seeking it out. It's just like the current's trying to get the ground. It's searching for it, trying to get the ground. It's out there. Those hazards are searching for opportunities to cause an injury, and it's always there. You got to be focused and don't get comfortable with the hazard. I put just a few. I'm getting right here to the end, and these are just a couple of things. And I thought, well, tips for linemen. I better give some tips. Maybe I pulled up. I've told you about having a positive attitude and staying focused. What if? Have a what if culture. Everything you do, ask, what if? If I do this here, what's going to happen? If a car hit this pole and broke the pole, but the phases are still tied in on the adjacent poles, have I gone down here and checked that tie wire on that adjacent pole before we start moving these conductors? If that tie wire's broke down here and I start moving this conductor here, is it going to fall off on the cross arm down here? Ask, what if? And that doesn't mean you've got to stop and say, what if I do this? What if I do this? If this happens, you learn that attitude, that mindset, keeping that mindset of asking what if. Sleeving copper wire. I thought about this last night. A lot of folks say, we ain't got no copper. And there's a whole lot of copper still out there. And so let's say you got a splice of some number 4 copper. And so you put that sleeve, you had to put a piece in where a tree fell, tore it down, you got some number 4 copper, you come up here and you put that sleeve in with that new piece. That sleeve and that copper looks exactly the same. It's both, okay? And when you come off that hoist, real easy, okay, it's going to slip just a little bit. But the more times you do that, you learn that feel. As a seasoned lineman, you learn that feel. You know when it's caught and that you can come on off with that hoist. But until you learn that feeling, that you've experienced that feeling and knowing that it's caught, keep your little Sharpie in your pocket. And you put that sleeve in there, take that Sharpie and hit that on each side on that wire. And when you jack off on that hoist, you'll see that mark. You'll see it move. And then you come up the next time and it doesn't move, you know it's caught. You can come right on off. It's just little tips like that you pick up, okay, and it'll help you. But what it's doing, when you see it stop, feel that pressure, that tension in that belt hoist, and know that pressure to learn, knowing that it's caught there, okay? Replacing a transformer off hooks. You know, things like this, you may go years and never have to do this. Some people will put the hand line right around the pole, the block and tackle, secure it to the pole. Some people will use a gin pole. Okay, so if you're the person that's having to climb the pole, we got to replace this. It's a transformer's pole in the middle of the field. We got to replace this transformer with block and tackle. Okay, because we can't get a truck to it. So somebody's got to climb. We put the block and tackle on there, hook it up to the transformer, and let's say we're going to use a gin pole. And when the guys on the ground pull that transformer up and lift it off those bolts on a gin pole, what's that transformer do? It's going to swing out just a little bit away from the pole. That way it can come down without hitting anything, okay? But when you bring the new transformer back up, let's say all you had was just maybe a couple of threads on the end of that bolt, and your 5/8 bolt is just sticking out maybe this far. Now you on the pole by yourself you've got to take that transformer and get it over to those bolts. So if you're going to use a gin pole and your bolts are short like that, let's say that you got 12-inch bolts in here. While they're down here taking that transformer down, take them bolts out and put your 214s in. Now they stick out here a little bit further. Guess what? Right out there where that gin pole took that transformer, you can set it right on here, and while they hold tension on that, you can tighten them bolts up. It's just little tips that you pick up that will help you. Trust me, 2 inches on that is an amazing change in what you're going to have to do to get that transformer over there. Stay clear of the drop zone. Work smarter, not harder. So we've changed the pole out. We've cut the top of the old pole out. We're transferring the phases over, and we've cut the top of the pole out. We got transformer, we got to hang on this pole, so we got to put some ground rods down. So while they're up here drilling and hanging something, whatever, can we be at the bottom of the pole hooking up that ground rod? Absolutely not. We're not supposed to be there. Oh, you got a hard hat on? No. That's a drop zone. You're not supposed to be there. Come over here and work on. We went from a 40 to a 45. We got to put probably 5 foot in our service. We got 3 services. I can be making this up over here, but when he comes down for something, that's the opportunity to go over there and put that last ground rod down, or hook it up, or finish covering the hole up. When they go back up, you come over here and you work on something else. But you work smarter, not harder. Just because this is where we started, we got to finish this completely before we go over and do this. No. Work what's needed. And where you go over here and work when no work is going over your head. Don't work. Stay out of that drop zone. Check the pole and everything on the pole. We've been taught our whole career, when you climb a pole, what do you got to do? You got to take your hammer and check that pole, make sure it's not rotten. Okay? When's the last time you climbed a pole, you checked the pole, did you check everything on top of the pole? You get to this house, you check the voltage, there's no voltage. The cutout's closed in. You can't get a truck to it. And another tip, a pair of binoculars. If I take a pair of binoculars and I'm zooming in on something right here 10 feet in front of me, it's going to be blurry. It's not far enough away. But standing on the ground, looking at a 40-foot pole right there about transformer height, perfect. You can see half the time you take a pair of binoculars and find your problem. Let's say you got lights flickering, that tape's backing off that connection. Oh, it's a bad connection right there. Okay, a pair of binoculars will help you, but check everything on the pole. We've got no voltage, the cutout's closed in. Well, what's the problem? I got to climb and see. Have I checked everything on the pole? Now, before I get on the pole and start climbing with my binoculars, that's when I see that stinger coming out the bottom of that cutout to that H1 bushing, it's broke right here at the H1 bushing. That's why there's no lights. And that's why the cutout's not blown. The fuse is not blown. We ain't got no voltage. But when I start climbing, what's that copper going to do? It's going to start shaking the pole. You inspect the pole and everything on the pole. Know you find your path and know where you're going and what's up there before you start climbing. Let's see, pole top rescue. This is one of those soapboxes I can get on. When you do pole top rescue training, always on a hand line, you got 3 points of contact. You got your block and you got two ends of that hand line. And you got a hook on one and the other one's got a hook that hooks in. Either one of these ends will not pass through that hand line because of the hook. So when you climb a pole, you got to have a hand line with you. So the hand line's already up there. You got to do pole top rescue. So first thing you want to do is split that hand line and send it up there, or either get that hook up there. Okay, you get the hook up there. You don't split it, you get the hook up there. And so when you get up there, first thing we'll do, we'll take that block, we'll split that hand line, drop it, drop the block. I'm holding one hand in. What if I drop this? It's on the ground. And if this is a real situation where you've got a coworker that's been injured and you got to get him down to the ground and he's not breathing, okay, in order to do that, you drop this in, you got to go back to the ground to get it. So before you split that hand line, when you unhook it and if that block is here, that other end is on the block, go around the pole, get it tied off and secure, so when you drop this is already secured on the person you're rescuing. And you've not created. If you have to go all the way down and back up, it's probably going to cause brain damage because you ain't going to get him down in 5 minutes. Okay, so make sure you do that. Always make sure you've got one end available to you until you get it secured off, okay? Proper cover up, I mentioned that. If you've got to go up on a pole and cover that pole up, you got enough, 3 hoses here and you working in, you're good. You got to satisfy yourself. I'm the one in the bucket. And if you go and you rubber that neutral up and you rubber that road phase up and I got to go between to get to the middle phase and then the field phase. Have you ever got in that position right there in the bucket and you turned around and looked back at that phase, that field phase, that road phase, to make sure you had enough cover where the boom is not approaching that conductor? If you've had to turn around and look back, you hadn't got enough rubber on that line. You need to put enough rubber on the line where your focus is what's in front of you, not behind you. I've done handled that. It's covered up and I'm good to go forward. If you're having to look back to check to be sure, you hadn't got enough rubber on. You need to put some more on there. Okay, last thing that I want to talk about is when it's time to go to work, it's time to go to work. And I use Tiger. The last presentation I come down here, I used a picture of him and I told this story. But you know, he's probably in a golf cart, or somewhere or another, but somebody has said something funny or whatever, or he may be on the green or whatever, but if they're talking, but you see the look on his face, they're having a good time. They may be having a meal. But when it's time to go to work, it's time to go to work. If you'll look, I didn't notice this until this morning when I looked over this. Look at where the ball's at in the hole. That's maybe a 3-foot putt. Look at the time he's taken for a 3-foot putt. Look at the look on his face. The playing's over with. When it's time to get in the bucket, when it's time to go to work, it's time to go to work. You put that play in, that horse playing beside. We have to joke and cut up in this line of work. You know, we'll all lose our mind. You know, and it's not a problem with that. It's good to have fun. You're working with guys, you know, and you're doing the job and you're having fun. But when it's time to go work, it's time to do the job. You put all that aside and you focus on the job and you do your job. No horse playing around anymore, okay? It's time to go to work, okay? You get serious about it. And if we do this, okay, we can all win and everybody can go home safe, okay? When it's time to go to work, it's time to go to work. Whatever you do, do it safe. Thank you for your attendance. Thank you so much, Brent. Thank you for the opportunity. Everybody have a safe day.